Well, hello everyone. This short video is regarding pathways to university, college and employment at Portobello High School. And it's a guide for parents and carers just to bring you up to speed with everything to do with the Pathways programme and more specifically those pathways into uni, college and employment. I want to start here with, first of all, setting out the range of qualifications and how they all fit together. And I'll bring in the term now, what's called SCQF. So that's short for the Scottish Credit and Qualifications Framework. And you'll see on the left-hand side that you have different levels within the SCQF framework. And across this timeline from back in the 70s, right through to where we are now, you'll see how these different levels of qualification that have existed during that time align with each other. If you're educated in the Scottish system, I'm going to hazard a guess that it was probably either O grades or standard grade that you're familiar with. And you'll see here, if I just hover the pointer over, for example, standard grade general, which was level 4, and how that aligns with now what we call national 4. So this qualification structure at the end, that's really where we are now and what you will see in Portobello High School. The credit course that existed is now aligned with National 5 by and large. And yeah, other qualifications here that some of you might be familiar with, called intermediates, and they existed for a much shorter time, but were certainly very popular in some schools, including Portobello, and you see how they fit. So again, they align with credit, intermediate 2 and National 5, general, intermediate 1, National 4, and for foundation level standing grade, the intermediate course was Access 3 and also National 3 that exists now. The majority of the courses at Portobello High School are National 3, 4, 5, Higher and Advanced Higher. Okay. You will see a number of Skills for Work courses. You'll hear the term NPA, which is National Progression Awards, and you might hear in some areas National Certificate, but that tends to be more of a college course. I hope that's helpful in giving you a little summary overview of how the current qualifications relate to what used to exist back in the day, let's just say. Now, this is a traditional post-school pathway, one that you might be familiar with, but as you know and I know, it's much more complicated than what you see on the screen. But for the most part, the majority of young people attend school. They undertake fairly traditional subjects, the ones we all know and love. And from there, they make their way to either college, university, or some form of employment, whether it be apprenticeship or a full-time position. And from college and university, typically young people end up in some form of employment. That's really not changed. However, what has, I suppose, shifted within that is the range of subjects here, for example, and how the college, university, and employment all interlinks. Okay, so we know that for many years there's been a partnership between college and university, and that's enabled young people to undertake HNC, HND qualifications at college and move into university. But now what you see is a much more alignment with employment as well. So what does that begin to look like? Well, in order to take you through it, I'll just focus just now on the school aspect and those subject areas. So at Portobello High School, if you're an S4, 5 or 6 pupil, you'll be undertaking national qualifications at 3, 4, 5 level and or including some hires and advanced hires, particularly in S5 or S6. On top of that, you'll have opportunities to participate and achieve some wider qualifications through a really broad range of different subject areas, everything from Duke of Edinburgh to first aid to Powering Futures, which is a skills-based programme, and a whole host of other opportunities within that. So again, if you speak to your child, they might be able to tell you some of the other things they're doing in school that we would be looking to accredit as they make their way through the school senior phase. Something new for the school, and an area we've really been pushing to make sure that every young person has a pathway, is a real focus on vocational programmes. So you may have heard that we have a range of qualifications, including stonemasonry, construction, roofing, jewellery making, beauty, childcare, fashion and textiles, photography, and a lot of these things link very well to the employment sector, and they also come with very much industry standard qualifications. For example, if a young person is undertaking construction, we would look to get them what's called a CSCS qualification, which is the health and safety aspect. If a young person is doing hospitality, we'd look to get them a REHIS qualification, which again is that health and safety part, to enable them to work in a proper kitchen, for example. And you'll see a range of these things emerge. Additionally, you also have what's called foundation apprenticeships. Now, these are 2-year programs that provide a young person with a big element of work experience as well, so vocational based learning. And certainly there's a real push nationally to have more young people engaging in a foundation apprenticeship. It's still a school based qualification in that sense, and the fact the young person is still at school, but they might have some of their time each week allocated to undertake a foundation apprenticeship. And it might be in an area of maybe health and social care, early education and childcare, and we'll speak more about that just shortly when we begin to look at some of the case studies. So again, this is something you might be familiar with in this range of qualifications. And certainly as a school, we try to capture not only the NAT 3, 4, 5 and higher and advanced higher, but also we try to capture obviously the wider achievement aspect as well, so that every young person has the opportunity to develop a range of broader skills. With these qualifications, young people can move on to college, university, and employment. We also have here some young people who like to undertake a gap year, whether it be for additional learning, to broaden their experience, or to maybe earn money during that particular time from leaving the school to then their next phase of education or joining the employment market as well. Okay. Now, the next few slides is to give you an insight into some of the most common and also the emerging pathways for young people at Portobello High School. I'm going to start with something and try and keep it as fairly straightforward as possible. You'll notice the diagram is certainly more complex than it was a few slides ago, and that's simply to almost highlight the range of pathways now that exist. But if I start from left to right, you'll see that in 4th year, this young person here was undertaking National 4s and 5s. As they moved into 5th and 6th year, they'll be undertaking hires, and that might include advanced hires as well. And then from leaving school, they may apply to go to university. And certainly for around about 45 to 55% of our young people, that would be their typical pathway. Other options, a young person in 4th year is doing National 4s and 5s, or a combination. In 5th year, they might decide to do a few hires, or 6th year as well, they could also do some hires. And then from there, they'll move on to college. And you'll see I've circled in here NC and HNC. If a young person is undertaking some hires at school, when they go to college, they can undertake HNC. That's Higher National Certificate at college. This next example is where the learning is typically at National 4 and 5 level across fourth year, fifth year, and potentially sixth year. If that young person moves to college, their learning will be pitched at the NC level typically. Okay, so that's the only change from the last slide. And things begin to get a little more complex. So this next slide, again, start from the left. Again, we see the National 4 and 5 for this young person. But they're also in this first circle undertaking a school-college partnership program. And that means on a Tuesday and a Thursday afternoon, that young person would attend college and they would undertake a particular qualification through Edinburgh College. When they go into fifth year or sixth year, they'll still do some national fives and hires. They might continue their school college course on a Tuesday, Thursday afternoon. And then from leaving school, they would move on to full-time college. And depending on what they exit with, in terms of the level, would again determine if they were national certificate or higher national certificate level learning. It's slightly more complicated with the addition of the school-college partnership program. You can find out more details about that through our Pathways website. Now, things become slightly more complicated here. This young person is doing a range of nationals 4s, national 5s through fourth year, and also some hires through fifth year as well. And they leave school and they move on to a modern apprenticeship. Okay, so you'll see here the foundation apprenticeship, the FA, that can involve school-based learning. So you could quite easily, for example, take this particular bubble and move it across to include the FA, the foundation apprenticeship. But in this case, this young person's primarily focused on that 4-5 higher learning. And from school, they move on to a modern apprenticeship. This particular modern apprenticeship may involve some either university or college learning. So again, you could easily combine here the modern apprenticeship with college, which is a very typical style of apprenticeship. But for some of them, it may include some university learning as well. And on the completion of that apprenticeship program, they would move into employment. Around about 15 to 20% of our young people would take this kind of pathway upon leaving school. Something more typical that you might be aware of is that a young person is at school, they might decide to leave school at the end of S4 or S5. They've been involved in a school-college partnership, but they decide actually just to go straight to employment upon leaving school. And there's no further training there. They're not doing a foundation apprenticeship. They're not doing a modern apprenticeship. And they just went straight into employment. This example here, where the learning has been National 4 and 5, fourth year, National 5 and higher, and they moved on to a full-time college course as well. Something again that you may be familiar with. I'm going to finish now with looking at this particular example. And this is one that is certainly emerging and has been around for the last few years. And it's whereby a young person fourth year is doing National 4 or 5, into fifth year they're doing National 5 and higher, and that can also include sixth year, where typically they would really begin to focus on higher level. But instead of doing S6, they decide actually to leave school, end their S5, and go straight into what's called a graduate apprenticeship. And that means they can combine learning at school and really learning with an employer who will also cover putting them through the university program as well. So this young person can achieve a degree right up to master's level upon leaving the school and also involved with an employer as well. And you'll see them advertised through the graduate apprenticeship schemes. It's fair to say that not many young people go down this particular route at the moment, but it's certainly an area that I've seen becoming more common. Obviously, the appeal of not only doing a degree, but also getting paid for that at the same time is quite appealing for some young people. And that's just some of the examples that we have at the school at the moment. But you can really see our role is to educate young people in these different pathways and whether they need to know that information now or maybe later on in life where they can see the different options available, we'll try and give them that sort of information so they know where to go. And finally, to say thank you very much for watching this short video. As always, when you watch a lot of these things, it can throw up more questions than answers. Apologies if it was confusing at times, but I've tried to keep it as straightforward as possible. And if you have any questions, please get in touch with us. I would encourage you to have a look at the Pathways, Porty Pathways website and use that as a real source of information around this area of pathways. And if you have any questions, please get in touch. Thanks very much.